like a slight delay, but live. Great. All set then?
Yeah, I'll probably make that
Okay.
same battery.
Okay, do you want help with that? We can do it now.
Yeah, eventually.
Test. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start our show. If you'd like to make your way to your chair. And some more gentlemen coming in. You have not missed anything. We're about ready to start. So to your right, there are some badges on the counter. I want some pizza. Please partake. Gordon does not want to take any of it home. Alright, well, welcome to the Captain America room. Captain, you can know that because of the coffee table we're using here. My name is John Anderson. I'll be the host for this evening. This is Video Game Makers Unite, and this is the first show we've done here at Capital Factory in 4 months. We would have done one 2 months ago, but there's that thing called the Omicron spike, and everything that we've been having to endure for the past 2 years, it just didn't seem right. Of course, everything that we do now, besides just bare survival, is an act of bravery. So thank you all for being brave with us. We have our speaker, who I'll be introducing a little bit later, but we normally start promptly at 7 o'clock, but we've also never been in the Captain America room before, and in 4 months delay since the last show, we want to give people all the time necessary to find their way up here. We have, she's around, but who actually parked in the underground garage? Okay. Before you leave, you will want to get with Sierra, who works here. She will want the last 4 digits of your credit card so you can validate your parking, so you won't have to pay like $30 to get out. That will be very important. So they used to have slips, and they're not doing it that way anymore, but you can get out. So just so you know about that before you leave, don't worry about that.
Are they going to do that during the break?
Yeah, they can do that during the break. We'll have a Q&A. We'll actually allow a 10-minute break in between the speech and Q&A. So, how's everyone been going? Haven't been doing? I mean, we don't have that many opportunities to actually meet one another. If you think about it, there have been people who moved to Austin in the past 2 years for work that haven't even met their coworkers. So that's a phenomenon by itself. So just getting around, exactly. Well, you don't want to have to go all the way to your office, depending on where you live, right? So, yeah.
It's way far away.
You want to talk about technology changes now, just trying to get people who want to go back and make it sound like something other than we really want to keep our office lease. It's quite the proposition these days. Because everyone figured out you can actually get the job done pretty well in the past 2 years. So, maybe you can, like some people I know, spend it on a vacation for your whole team to go to Cancun or something. It's possible. So I wrote down some things that you may or may not have heard about happening in the past several months. Again, it's been the past 4 since the start of the new year. Just stuff that's going on in Austin. Maybe you've heard about it, maybe you haven't. But back in February, the team at BioWare Austin released the very first digital expansion pack in 2 years for Star Wars The Old Republic called Legacy of the Sith. It's still a big project, and EA has realized that it's worth reinvesting in 10 years after it shipped. A lot more people are working on it, and we're playing it again, so that's worth noting. Also, Enduring Games, we'll hear them again, but they launched, it wasn't a game per se, but they were using Unreal technology. They made the new app for Crunchyroll, so you can watch anime on your Switch. That was done here in Austin, Enduring Games. I also want to give a shout out to Gilly Games, which is largely one guy, Todd, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name, it starts with Gilly. He has his own studio and he put out a mobile game called Word Wager. And you can actually follow this stuff. I put it up on the Austin Game Dev Beer Night board on Facebook on the regular. And then South by Southwest happened, and there wasn't a gaming expo. I mean, they hadn't been able to do a whole show for almost 2 years, and they kind of had to cut down their staff to almost nothing and take Jay Penske's money to keep the lights on. So we hope that it'll come back in some form or another, but they had something called the Creative Industry Expo, and instead of a PAX knockoff, they got a CES knockoff. I don't know, maybe people actually went to it. We want things going on. Yes, Dan?
I was just going to mention that there was not a gaming expo at South by Southwest, but Valhalla Esports Lounge had a indie expo.
I was getting to that.
Oh, okay,
actually, the two guys that I would have had, because actually 2 years ago we had great ideas. Myself, Donald Harris, and Tyler Coleman had bright ideas of having an event at a bar close to a train stop, and we were going to have it at the Praetorium and get people to go away from downtown, and people that were coming into town for the expo, they can meet other people in town. We had a great idea, and then South by didn't happen because we had the pandemic instead. Well, those two guys decided to go and do their own shows, and the first one, Donald Harris now has his ATX Game Makers, and he got a bar on Red River at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday, and I just had to be there just to see what I love Donald, that I would not have tried that. And actually, it was a really great show. For everyone went there, you know what it was about. And I think he called it Fake It Till You Make It. Again, not a title I would have chosen, but it was very well attended. A whole lot of people that were in town for it, and I got to meet a whole bunch of other people there, so props for them. And then Valhalla Esports Lounge on West 6th, Tyler made some connections for them, and they had a great showcase of indie games, mostly made locally, showcased. And actually, I hadn't actually been there before. As it turned out, Donald had an event there 2 years previous, right before the pandemic hit, and I missed that one. So Valhalla Esports Lounge, they do more than just esports. They do other stuff too. So, but then going on into March, Tiny Tina Wonderlands, mostly known as a Gearbox project, but again, Enduring Games did the cross-platform work, and then Lost Boys Interactive, so you may or may not have heard of, that is based here in Austin and also in Madison, Wisconsin, did work on that game, and it launched mostly a Gearbox production in 2K. It's in the Borderlands universe, you know, wacky stuff and cel-shaded graphics, good stuff. That launched, and then the other big news was Boss Fight Interactive, which has an office here in Austin and also Allen, Texas, got bought by Netflix Games. So you may not hear about them as Boss Fight for much longer. They may be branded at Netflix, and who can blame them? But everyone who works at Boss Fight, congratulations. You are now all Netflix and children. And then at the end of March, we had 2 games launching on the same day on the 31st. We had Weird West by Wolfeye, published by Devolver Digital. Rafael Colantonio and a bunch of people that used to work with him at Arcane Studios, doing a top-down immersive sim by way of Lovecraftian horror and Western stuff. So you have Eldritch Magic and Gunfighters. That is now available on every platform that matters. But also, Alchemy Labs put out Cosmonius High on the Meta Quest 2 and on Steam as well, Steam VR Deck. So both of those came out the same day. Very different games, both mostly made in Austin, although Wolfeye has people all over the place. That's going to be a theme nowadays, the whole idea of what does place even matter now, when people are literally can be wherever. It's the operations have made it possible for people to make games. You kind of need access to the internet still, but it helps to also be in the same time zone. But beyond that, it's a lot of things are possible now, and it's been proved. What was just announced earlier this week is that Aspire Media, which in the past year had been acquired by the Embracer Group, same people also in Gearbox, and it's all balled up in the big Swedish meatball of studios, including THQ Nordic. They also own Gunfire Games and Airship Syndicate here in town. And if you haven't heard me say this stuff, yes, I really do talk like this all the time. I'll just ramble all the time. But anyway, Aspire announced their intention to buy Beamdog up in Edmonton, Canada, founded by ex-BioWare people. And they've been mostly doing remakes of the really old BioWare games like Dead Empire. But they announced to be published by Aspire, a game called Myth Force. And it's very intentionally looking like an old Saturday morning action drama cartoon. So yeah, the 80s calling, the 80s called, they still have their heroes, I forget what their tagline was, but it was something like that. So it looks like, Silverhawks or He-Man or any of those sorts, but it's a little more diversified in terms of what the heroes look like. And then, last but certainly not least, Atui, run by Jules Watson, put out a new toy game called Pick Tui for the Nintendo Switch. And I do want to plug Atui Talks, which is, he's only been doing it for a few months now, but as far as an example of a local developer that talks a whole lot about what he's up to, look that up on YouTube. Atui is spelled A-T-O-O-I. Jules has been around Austin a long time, but he has not lost his British accent, which is significant. But now, what do we always do at our show, which is the job haves and job have-nots. Anyone starting on this side of the room, anyone who is looking for a job and would like to raise their hand, say who you are and what you do and what you're looking for? Yes, sir.
My name's Dustin. Currently work for Amazon, but in their fulfillment area. Currently going to school for computer programming. Looking to either get in through QA or like an associate production role.
I forgot one thing that also came out in the news is that Activision announced that they're making all their contract QA testers full-time. And that includes quite a lot of people here in Austin. We didn't know the studio or the office that had started as mainly CS for Blizzard. A lot more people are working on Call of Duty products and a lot of testers as well. So that affects all those people. So that is here in Austin. If you want to move, it's a good option for you. Do you have a website or a way to find out about you?
I have a LinkedIn.
Very good.
Pretty much
Go
everything.
ahead. You can find it. And if you're not familiar with the LinkedIn app, I've only recently figured this out, but everyone know about how to scan each other and how to connect all that stuff? Well, ask Justin, he'll tell you how to do it. That's very handy. And for those of us who still like using business cards, that's not a replacement for that, but it is a supplement to it. Anyone else this side of the room? Grant?
Good job, everyone. My name's Grant. I'm currently looking for a production role. I've got experience with Unity, Unreal, Perforce, Jira. So I've got a business card, and you can find me on LinkedIn.
Oh, anyone else? Joshua?
My name is Joshua. I am currently not working anywhere, but I am looking for a UI UX role or graphic design role within the gaming industry. I have business cards that have QR codes that lead you to my LinkedIn, so make it not really complicated. But yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
And you are in demand because you're actually talking to people slightly.
Yes,
very much.
I do have people talking to me.
Yes. We always like hearing about that. Anyone else on this side of the room? People looking forward about this side of the room. Angela.
Hey, my name is Angela. I'm lead artist and or art director for a small studio called Tropical Heat, and we just finished up a big project that leaves me just hanging right now. I have experience in QA, but also concept art, illustration, storyboarding, anything on the sequential or concept side of things. I've got a business card and can direct you to my portfolio if needed.
Where did you go to school again?
SCAD.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Hey, my name's Jake, and it's my first meeting. I didn't come with business cards, but I didn't know that this would be a thing.
Yeah, treat every one of these things like a meetup. Always be hustling.
So I just graduated ACC's game design program like 6 months ago. I guess 6 months. And then I have a math degree from a long time ago. So I'm okay at logic, and I was kind of
That sounds so precious.
programmer at ACC, and but I'm okay with doing QA or whatever.
Yeah. Where'd you come from? How long you been in Austin?
15 years.
Goodness gracious. And this is your first event of anything game development?
Yeah. Well, because I was an actuarial analyst for like 7 years, and then
Okay.
I wasn't, and then COVID happened. But in the middle of that, I started the ACC game design, and
Okay.
it just
You got inspired. Maybe.
Yeah, I was really trying to switch gears and follow my dream rather than.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad for that. So you're being brave, which is hard to do in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm the best fit or have enough
Don't
experience.
worry about it. Just treat it like practice. Again, no one got good at anything without practice. This human interaction thing, it's a thing. So no one's as good as anyone would like to be. So welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else in the side of the room looking forward? Hit it.
I'm Colin. I do music. I write music. I do like adventure type. That's kind of the genre I lean towards. Yeah, I have stuff on YouTube. I got a LinkedIn. I do Instagram too. I like Instagram. I don't know.
You've done the Austin Game Audio meetup yet?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
I need to get connected. So that's why I'm here.
Well, you can look it up on the Discord.
Okay.
Aaron
Cool.
Brown runs a
Awesome.
Austin Game Audio meetup. They haven't been meeting up lately because it's not been sanitary to do so, but
Yeah.
they're planning on doing it again.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't know
Notified
it
us
existed.
there.
So. Cool.
Anyone else looking for work? Then we'll go to anyone who's hiring. Anyone looking to hire people in this side of the room? Richie.
Hi, I'm Richie. I run a company called Hypothetical Studios. Been an Austin person off and on for like 15 years now. So
He's back on.
Yes, back on. Hopefully for good. So basically our company, we make a game called Epic Tavern, which is kind of our passion project type of game. And to support that and to learn new things and have fun, we do a whole bunch of contract work. So we never know when things are going to hit. So right now we're in the mode of just kind of going collecting names, getting to know people, making friends or whatever, I guess. And if we have something that comes up, I'd love to have a deep file of people that I can get in contact with. So yeah, that's us. We've been around for about 8 years. Welcome.
We never know when things are going to hit. Appreciate a CEO who will admit that.
Yeah.
That's always true. Yeah, we know exactly what the kids like. They'll spend money on. Yeah, good luck with that.
Thanks for putting this together. This is always awesome.
Oh, we appreciate it. Anyone in this side of the room need to hire?
Yeah, I got a thing. So I work for a small indie publisher called Graffiti Games, something he knows a little bit about. But we're looking for kind of a seasoned social media manager / community manager. Just somebody to kind of help us do some of that stuff. We're doing some bigger pushes on things, and starting to handle a little bit more internally on some of those content efforts. So if you or someone you know has experience running some cool social media campaigns, maybe get them in contact. You can check us out at graffitigames.com. I believe on the site there's some job listing. If not, just come talk to me and I can get to you.
All the same, if anybody is interested in working at Kabam, where I currently work, hit me up. I'll give you a referral. I got a bunch of positions on the website, so go check them out.
Monumental is hiring locally for a whole bunch of stuff, so monumental.io.
He just announced that he's not going to be working there next month. So, yeah, he's still there though. All right, how about about we start with our speaker? Again, we haven't done a speaker for any time in the past 4 months, but I really want to hear what this guy has to say. He's also from Kansas, and we'll admit it. I will too. We're not there anymore. We made it all the way to Austin. Cool state. Well, that's right. Please welcome Richard James Cook.
So first and foremost, it's been about 5 years since I gave a talk, so I apologize if any word vomit comes out during this. But so I'm just going to talk a little bit about my career today. It's been a very, very long road and a very serendipitous one to get to where I have been. I didn't start in the place that I thought I was going to start, and I definitely didn't end in the place that I was going to be in at the end of it. So just going to run through that and just talk about where I'm from and how all this stuff happened. Since we talked a little bit about Kansas, I am from a little place in Kansas called Wichita. It is an actual city. Some people think it's just in the middle of a giant wheat field or something, but it's technically the biggest city in Kansas because Kansas City is not mostly in Kansas. However, I grew up there, just a little creator. My family comes from a very traditional background. My mom was the secretary for the school district there. My dad was a cop. My brother got into aircraft engineering, which Wichita is great for if you want to get into that stuff, anything aircraft. But it wasn't me. It just wasn't anything I wanted to do or anything I wanted to try to do. I was a very creative kid, and I wanted to get outside of Wichita to explore those things. So, when push came to shove, I turned 18, and I said, I'm getting the hell out of here, and I went to a place called Full Sail in Orlando, Florida, where I studied computer animation. I started at Full Sail in 2003. So, Maya was still owned by Alias then, and I started on 4.0, 4.5 or something like that. I don't know if any of y'all have ever heard of Nerds. It's a very old thing that nobody uses anymore. I started using that stuff because computer animation specifically, it wasn't for game dev specifically, it was to do computer animation film, so that's what they used at the time. I like to say this a lot. I was young and stupid. I was 18. I thought I wanted to do movies. I wanted to do music. I played instruments and stuff like that. I thought I also wanted to make video games, and I thought I had the energy to do all of that, and I absolutely did not. So things kind of fell apart towards the end a little bit, and I ended up having to leave for multiple reasons: financial reasons, school reasons, and just stuff like that. So, I took my passion, I went back to Wichita, and I kind of started doing a lot of soul searching during that time after that. From the time I was back in Wichita, I sharpened my skills a lot with 3D art as much as I could. I was part of a community online that no longer exists called Game Artisans. I think they stopped doing their thing in 2015 or something like that. But so I participated in the competitions there. They had a lot of cool art competitions like Dominance War and Unearthly Challenge and stuff. And just inviting people to basically, between all the forums, challenge each other with their art and make cool stuff. So, I was still very passionate about being in the computer animation or gaming space as a 3D artist. I wanted to be a character artist. And I still kept trying to do all that stuff and kept trying to sharpen all my skills. But for, I guess, multiple reasons, maybe my motivation wasn't there, or maybe I just wasn't progressing fast enough. There were just years that went by where I would apply to seemingly every single job under the sun. And trust me, I know the feeling of rejection because I didn't get even an interview at any of those places. So it was a little trying on me, and it was very hard to get past that, but I knew my passion still lay there, and I wasn't going to give up on that. So the more years passed by, and I kind of started thinking maybe I should get into the production or design side of this, but also still be able to use my art skills. So around about 2011 or so, I got with some indie teams. I had done a little work with some indie teams before this, but just trying to put something together, put a project together, put my passion to work, see what I can do with it. And I guess technically none of this stuff really shipped because we would get to a point where, and of course, we're doing this as an indie. We're doing it for no money, basically. We're just doing it because we want to do it together. And, you know, for one reason or another, it just didn't come together. Somebody on the team would quit, or at the most opportune moment. You know, I remember showing this game, Pro Janitor Police, that we worked on at PAX East 2013, and I think about 2 or 3 days before I was supposed to leave to Boston, the build just broke, and the program, it's something the programmer pushed, and then he wasn't going to be around to fix it, basically. So we were scrambling, figuring out what to do. So also during this time, you know, just to bring that up, but during this time, I kind of got the itch to start filming like a developer diary thing. I had a Galaxy S3 phone and nothing else but that, or in a webcam, like a 720p webcam. So I was just filming just us making the game or whatever, for whatever reason, just putting it up on YouTube. This was during the time that Indie Game the movie came out. So I got inspired by that, and I kind of started thinking, well, what if I put this together in kind of like a more cohesive way, tell a little bit of a story and something like that. The same kind of, I wanted it to be a rags to riches type of thing, just like, you know, the Super Meat Boy guys and all that stuff. I wanted it to be like that. It obviously didn't turn out like that, but it was still something that got me to experiment with that side of things in video and start seeing what I could do with that as well, while doing my game dev stuff. So I made a whole movie with my phone and my webcam, and I put that on YouTube. That's just an experiment. It's called Pixels and Polygons. And people must have connected to it, because I can tell you right now, the quality sucks. Like, the audio was terrible and the video quality was terrible, but something was there enough for people to connect with it, and I think it ended up doing like 150,000 views or something. So, you know, I consider that like successful for me, and so once that happened, I started thinking, maybe there's something here, maybe I can explore the video side of things more, and that kind of started the spark of that, to get that going. So, to detour a little bit on this, you know, I'm thinking 10 years after when I started at Full Sail at this point, and I'm thinking like, okay, how did I even, you know, like get to this point, or how did I even get to where I am now from that point? And the more I thought about it, the more I, you know, realized that it wasn't just that I had sharpened my skills enough, or that I had gotten my work in front of the right person or anything. It was those things, but more than anything else, I want to say that it was all these people. And this is just a small collection of people I know in the industry in some way or another. And to be honest, since I last did this presentation, I've had a lot of fallouts with some of these people. Not by choice, you know, in a lot of cases, but I don't talk to some of these people anymore, but they still very much deserve credit for me where I am now, and the things that we did together and the things that we worked on that you know, got me to the point where I am now. So I very much give credit to people, and people in the industry, anybody you meet at any time, even if they can't do something for you at that time, still very important to have some camaraderie, you know, have a rapport with people, and just get to know anybody and everybody for every reason. It's really, you know, that's what the key to it is. So yeah, so some of the reasons that I know these people is just we were introduced through somebody else. I asked them to be a part of a panel or something that I put together. I've given a lot of panels at PAX and stuff like that to have some of these people on, and one particular, I ate a hot pepper for reviewing a game. I met some people through that. It was an old YouTube channel called Hot Pepper Gaming. I don't know if anybody remembers that. But or I met a drink up, you know, event or something like that. Did some work for it, anything like that. So there's many reasons why I know these people, and how that network expanded very quickly because of those reasons. So I just want to highlight one particular person, though, that really I give a lot of credit to for helping kickstart my career from the point that I was doing my first film and then working on games. And that guy is this guy right here. If anybody doesn't know him, his name is Mike Wilson. He is the founder of Devolver Digital. So I met Mike through, I mean, probably 3 or 4 other people when I started working on my second film because I got the itch from working on my first film and seeing the views and the success. Thought maybe this is something I could explore a little more. And I made a trailer for that film even when it wasn't finished. And then I kind of just put it out there to gauge interest. And it caught the eye of somebody who did operations at Devolver, who passed it on to Mike. And I got to meet Mike and come out here to Austin to interview a bunch of people for this. So that film was called Pixel Poetry. Mr. Gordon Walton over there was in it as well. I don't know if you remember me interviewing her or not. But yeah, among the many, many people that I came out here to interview because Mike Wilson gave me that opportunity to do that, you know, it created a lot of new opportunities that started to branch off more, and you started to see this thing happening organically a lot more quickly, which was really cool. So I definitely thought this was it. I thought this was like, you know, this is the new path that I need to explore because there's something really happening here. So let's see. Yeah, so during the production, I met a guy named Mr. Warren Spector. If anybody doesn't know who Warren Spector is, he helped create some great games like Deus Ex and Thief and System Shock. And you know, he comes from a time when, you know, there's still a lot of exploring going on in games and genres and things like that. It's really cool. During the interview, or after the interview, I had mentioned to him that I had some game development experience in my background, and so he invited me to apply for his program that he had just started at UT called the Danny and Sam's Gaming Academy. And you know, I thought for sure I wouldn't get in because you know, I was just real lowly on myself. I didn't think I was worth anything really. But you know, after applying and, you know, I think 3 interviews or something like that, it really felt like a job. But I did get in, and that was kind of my first experience moving to Austin and getting to learn about the things around here. But, you know, like a lot of other stuff, it just kind of exploded. Like, once you have a few of those doors open for you, you just start to see things a little more clearly. And that's kind of just what happened. I did my first panel at PAX South in 2015, which I think was the first PAX South. And unfortunately, that's not around anymore, but, you know, memories. And, you know, but during this time, you kind of, I don't want to say get blindsided by all the cool stuff that's happening, but you start to understand that even as far as you come along, there's still going to be a lot of obstacles in the way all the time, and you have to humble yourself and make sure that you know that this is just kind of how it operates. It's a success and failure system. You have to go through those failures to get the successes, and then, you know, likewise, you have to have the successes to continue making new things. You know, defining success is a kind of a different thing for everybody. I personally define success as just completing something. It doesn't have to pull the numbers. It doesn't have to, you know, sell big or anything like that. I'm very, very proud of the stuff that I've worked on and that was finished, but maybe necessarily wasn't super successful in the eyes of like a shareholder or something like that. So yeah, during this time too, it just kind of started to go downhill a little bit. As much as the cool stuff was happening, there was also a lot of bad stuff happening. I was sleeping on friends' couches and stuff. Finances became very hard, and I was you know, sleeping in a friend's office for a while, taking showers at the gym and stuff like that. So that kind of ultimately led me to actually have to go back home again, and that was a reality check for me to realize that, oh crap, I messed up again. Now I have to go back to the start again. And it really tries on you sometimes. But yeah, so I mean, even though I was back home, I still very much put myself into everything I did. And I tried to make the most of it, and I still kept trying to hustle and, you know, keep pushing on. I did make another movie at this time. It was called Surviving Indie. That was my last film that I made and finished in 2016. We also did that one with Devolver Digital. I'm very proud of that one too. And yeah, I was taking the video stuff to the next level too. I was making trailers for people that was just kind of like the word of mouth was getting around. These people with their games, they need trailers for their games. So I started doing that stuff. I started working with New Blood Interactive, a guy named Dave Austrie runs it, and you know, they needed one for their game Tonight We Ride, which they don't publish anymore. But from there, it led on to games like Dusk, Medieval and just all these other games that they published. And I kind of just became their like in-house editor in a way because he was too lazy to move the work to anybody else, and I said I'll keep taking it. But yeah, I mean, so that started, really building that library of video work for me and giving me the opportunity to reach out to other people or have other people reach out to me, saying we would like you to do our trailers as well. And so I kind of built a little small freelance business out of that over the years, which really helped out and really, not just sharpened my video skills, but helped out with finances too. It allowed me to be more versatile and be able to not have to necessarily be grinding it out all the time, I guess. I was having fun doing the work I was doing, and I was making a decent amount of money doing it. During this time too, I also had a small part on a Rooster Teeth Games RIP title called Battle Sauce. It was their first published title, and I think maybe they only published like 3 before they folded or something like that. I got to work with a bunch of cool people on that, and that led me to meet some other people that helped me with future projects as well. One of the people I worked with, his name will come up again here in a minute, but one of the people I worked with at Rooster Teeth on that game was a guy named Andy Mesner. And he was at Rooster Teeth at the time as a producer, and he was working on that game with us. I was just outside of it, and they were publishing it, but we got to hang out. It was cool. So the next thing that I got that itch for game dev again, and I wanted to make another game, and I love Mortal Kombat. I really, really love Mortal Kombat, and it was just one of the most important titles to me growing up. So I wanted to do a proper homage to it, and started working on this game that I just had the idea for forever, called Super Combat Fighter, and it's just the digitized actors, and it's kind of like, it took everything that I loved from every fighting game at the time, like the giant apocalypse battle at the end of Moral Heroes and stuff like that. That's kind of inspired by that, so we have the giant battles and all that stuff. But I think as anybody knows who's ever worked on an indie title and also ran like a Kickstarter, it's very, 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 very hard, and it's very disheartening when that stuff sometimes comes up short, which is what happened. So we ran a Kickstarter, we had so much traction going for it. We had the original actor who played Jax in our game, and he did a video for us. We had Ernie Reyes Jr., who's going to appear in our game. He was Ninja Turtles and Surf Ninjas. That was like 2 of my favorite 90s movies. And we had so much going for it, but we didn't really have the marketing prowess, and we just didn't have, I guess, the spark that everybody was looking for. So we did come up short on that Kickstarter. And after you run a failed Kickstarter, it's very hard not just to get one going again, but it's also very hard to get publisher interest because they already see the writings on the wall in a lot of ways. I tried for months and months and months and months to get somebody interested in the title, but it just never came up. So sadly, I had to give up about 2.5 years worth of development and just say goodbye to it. It was a really sad time, but greener pastures ahead, but I didn't know it at the time. So at the beginning of 2019, I just quit games after that. Again, very disheartening. I just didn't see a future for myself in it. I didn't really believe in myself either at that point because I thought, maybe this just wasn't what I was meant to do. Maybe I was just meant to do video. So I folded it back. I knew I was starting over, and I became a wedding videographer in my hometown just for some kind of start to that kind of work. Anything I could do to put myself into that atmosphere, but I left games behind, and I was just not with it anymore. Up till about July of 2019, I saw Mr. Andy Mesner had posted on Facebook that they were looking for a producer at Graffiti Games, and I thought about it very, very hard. I said, I'm out of games, I'm not going to do it. I swear. But something just told me to do it, and so I did reach out to him, and went through that whole interview process. Again, you got to remember up to this point, I had never really even gotten an interview for any game job that I tried for because I was just in that funk for the longest time. But it came to be that I was at a 9-to-5 job at the time, doing stocking like Sam's Club or something like that. And I was on my lunch break, and Andy called me, and he left a voice message. It came up as a spam call, so I just like swiped it away. I said, "Nah, I'm not even dealing with this right now," because I was just stressed out. I was not happy. But again, that thing, that intuition, whatever you want to call it, said, "Just check your voicemail. Just check your voicemail." I picked it up. It was Andy. He's like, "I just want to talk about next steps." He didn't really give me any context, and so I was just like, whoa, wait a minute, this is really happening. Like, there's no way this is happening. And I immediately called him back, and yeah, he offered me the job, and I sat there and I cried tears of happiness over my Impossible Whopper that I was eating in Burger King there. But yeah, that was really like the breaking point. Like, that was the big moment, because that was the time I realized that all of that work and all of that effort and all that hustle and all the failures finally came to a peak. And I had gotten the break that I needed. I had gotten the job that I wanted. And it was just it was a wonderful feeling. It really was. And it made all that time worth it, even though you can be in that time and not think it will ever come to that. Like, it's not going to be worth it. But it really was. So I started at graffiti in August of 2019, and just jumped right into it, and did a lot of really, really cool stuff. We worked on some pretty good titles, two particular that I'm very proud of, Blue Fire and Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. These were titles that I had a pretty big hand in helping define, so to my joy, whenever they shipped, and they did really well, actually. I think they're both the top selling titles still, right? So I'm very, very proud of those. I'm very proud of the dev teams for putting those together, and that was just a really wonderful time in my life. So to now, I left graffiti in April of 2021, and almost right away, like I was almost right away regretful of leaving, because I went for the money. I got a job offer for a different company that was like a VR, AR company or something like that. I won't say too much about it because there's some controversial stuff going on there, but they offered me a lot more money, and I gave my boss at graffiti a chance to kind of get closer to that, at least, because I did not want to leave graffiti, and I love that job. So, but I ended up taking that new offer, and I think about a month after, a lot of things fell apart from that, and so I was kind of left with the bag again. I was left jobless again. And so I had to start over in a lot of ways. I had to kind of find my place again and what I really wanted to do. And so that was definitely a very tough summer to deal with a lot of personal demons and to deal with a lot of other things. But when the time came, I started applying to things again. I started looking for gigs again, and it was the same. It felt like the same thing. Like it was a whole mess of interviews and not getting interviews or not getting things like that. But the one difference I noticed this time is that I actually was getting interviews for most of the jobs that I was applying to, which was a stark difference from anything that had happened like before. I felt actually I was worth something, So that gave me a lot of motivation to keep trying, keep applying to things. And I finally got a call back from Kabam. I did 3 interviews with them. Funny little mini story. I applied for Kabam in 2012 as a 3D artist, and I got rejected. So I did get the job though this time as a video editor. Kind of got to marry those two things that I really love, the video and games, and put those things, and then put those things together in the proper way and do some really cool stuff. And I've really enjoyed it so far, and I plan on staying with it for quite a while. So yeah, I mean that's what it kind of came to. It's really is a full circle, and it's kind of realizing how much of that kind of came to a point sometimes where it felt the most hopeless it could ever felt. And I know that feeling. I know the feeling of rejection, and like I said, and I know that feeling of worthlessness in multiple aspects, from working on my own games to working on other people's games to working on videos and things like that. So, you know, like I said, happy ending. Is it? I mean, I don't think a lot of people really put that much time into waiting for their big break to happen, and it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of understanding, and you know, being able to get right with yourself and get right with the people around you, and not you know, push things out of the way too far. So, yeah, and it brings back the question: would you give up? You know, like after 10 years of just nothing happening, right? I don't know if it's an easy thing to have to wait that long, or what the threshold is for any of you who got into this thinking it might be a little more straightforward. I mean, you know, sometimes people think that, but yeah, it's a very volatile industry, and I think we all kind of realize that too. One of my favorite quotes by Eddie Murphy is, the advice that we give to someone is to not take anyone's advice. And my kind of spin on this is that, you know, you can hear my story, you can hear any of my advice, but you should mold it out of something that you have in yourself. That's the most important thing, because anything taken literally, I feel like it's just going to lead to disappointment a lot of times. I mean, there's a lot of people who think you can do it one way and just get where you are that way, and that's just totally not true. So yeah, that echoes this. My journey is not your journey. You know, I really hope it doesn't take you that long to get somewhere in your career or to do anything you really want to do with your career. Because, you know, the same things that I did, the road that I walked, it's going to be totally different for you. So it's a really crazy and unpredictable industry, and honestly, that's what's awesome about it. You never know what's around the bend, and there's some really cool stuff waiting for you if you just hold out, keep pushing. Yeah, so to end this, my own personal lessons for it, I must create. I have that itch every single morning. If I wake up and, you know, I'm like, I want to do something, even on the side, if I'm doing like a side hustle or something like that. I actually ran here from a movie set before I came here to this talk, because I got hired to do behind the scenes for a movie that's shooting here. You know, I have to create. I really have that every single day. I have to create something, whether it's in gaming, if I go inside Unreal or something, and maybe do some previews for a project, or if I'm actually working on a trailer or actually working on a game of any kind, like I have to create. That's just part of my everyday. People are important always. Again, going back to the network that I build of people, I kind of also just became known for being around. That's a nice thing, even though they didn't really know what I worked on a lot of the times. They were just like, oh, hey, Richard, what's up? You know, I had so many people in the same vein ask me, oh, so what are you working on now? I forgot, you know, or, you know, like it happens all the time at industry events and like PAX and stuff. So that was just always the thing. But, you know, I still would not have gotten where I am if it weren't for the people that I thought might not have been able to do anything for me at the time I met them. If I acted that way, I would definitely not be where I am right now. The industry is small. I think we all know that in a lot of ways. We all kind of know what the happenings are, and we all kind of know each other in a weird way, even though we sometimes, you know, don't know each other directly. We always probably know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So yeah, that's part of it. And then, yeah, stop trying to predict what will happen next. Anytime I've ever tried to do that, it's almost like setting yourself up for disappointment, because you can be optimistic, you can be motivated, and you can look for the brightest part of anything you're working on. Everybody wants their game to be the greatest game ever. Like, it's just, you know, that's part of you. That's part of what you do, you know, and that's a wonderful thing. But you also have to be ready for the completely unpredictable and unknown and everything, because it's going to happen. You know, it's Murphy's Law, basically. It's going to happen. Just be prepared for it. Be happy with the result, because you put the work in to do it, and you should be happy with everything that you did. I won't let my mistakes define me. That's kind of the final thing there. So, thank you. That is the talk.
So now here's where I make a deal with the speaker, because he informed me that he has somewhere to be. So, what are we doing for time? Should we give these people 10 minutes, and will you be here?
Oh, I can give more than 10 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
I got plenty of time.
Well, why don't we take a break, 10 minutes, and I will find Sierra if she's not out there. But come back here 10 minutes, and we'll have Q&A with Richard. Oh, and by
Get
the
some
way,
pizza.
Turnip Boy commits tax evasion on Game Pass now.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
Justin, you didn't tell me that.
I missed something, what?
Turnip Boy is on Game Pass.
Oh, did it get announced?
He doesn't even know it. He lives there.
Oh, maybe you did. No, I think I did see them. Anyway, whatever. That is actually the name of the game. Turnip Boy commits tax evasion. Anyway.
Eat more pizza.
Eat more pizza.
Just in time for the end of tax season.
I mean, yeah. Why wouldn't you put it out in April?
I mean, it came out in April last year.
I really enjoyed Turnip Boy. The writing in that game is funnier than anything.
Yeah, those devs were really cool. They were just like super friendly the entire time, even though like when the publishing stuff comes into it, a lot of teams really know that they don't have some because they're just so dev-minded and stuff. So, but they know that they were always really cheery and stuff.
No, yeah, I checked it out on Switch, so it's terrible.
Yeah.
So good.
It was a fun one. We found that at PAX East 2020, which was the last PAX before COVID kind of ruined everything. We found them just kind of off to the side. They were working on making plushies and stuff.
Yeah.
So they put a lot of work into it. People really loved it.
On Mike, by the way. Yeah, I appreciate it so much because so I just started at Blizzard 2 months ago. Yeah, so it did like obviously have like QA and stuff here, and then some folks from some of the game teams are out here, but I'm working on that. So like we do have a bunch of things on here, so like I'm working on SDK for a lot of all the
Is it like most of the stuff that's out here?
it started that way, but then it's like developed now. So like there's a bunch of different development teams out here, and then like it started.
No, if I was that bad.
Yes, we started to do more stuff out here. But that it's like out in the workforce for a while. No, so I was in Nashville, which was scene for music. I was at a TV studio in the digital department doing like automotive cultural stuff. So I was there for several years, and then the gig I was at before Blizzard was my first product management gig. Kids company called Noodle. It's like very like Schoolhouse Rock, but it's video rooms. So I was working on that, and then took that job remote here. I've been applying for a bunch of things for Blizzard for years. Became very close enrolled in Aspire, but that was when I actually had an interview. I was forced to an interview. I was like, I might actually be ready for one of these things. Like maybe something for me. I literally think it was a keyword mistake in resumes. They saw like because the recruiter said something like, "Oh, we think your work at RTM Studios might be a good fit. I was like, that's not quite the game studio for everything in that, but got me into the interviews at least. Yeah, so now it's I started going into community and whether it's within the company or else, eventually I'd love to do production. Oh yeah. So for me, it was like obviously love games forever, but I think where because I had always thought it's all engineering and it's never gonna be me. It was probably around like 2013. It was the behind the scenes stuff. That I started seeing the way that they were shooting, and it was like more like production, and then those were the things I watched. I was like, oh, okay, like they started to introduce the concept of a producer as being, I think that's where it's moving. I I was like a couple credits away from like minor in college, so I was like super into that side of things. So I started seeing the way they were doing those mocap sessions. What is that? Right. Or at least to have a project, fund a project. Great to be here. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Also, there's other Marys. That's not the small Marys.
put a lot of you put a lot of investment. So kind of yeah, I mean, it could very well be just like a hit or miss thing. Push it further, you know, the game is telling enough to an audience to be engaged. I don't know, I have to really be able to see for myself.
Folks, you may make back to your seats. We'll have Q&A with you I actually have one important thing for everyone who parked in the underground parking and would like your parking validated. Please go, before you leave, and before 9:15, it's about 8:30 right now, Sierra will be in the Voltron room on the 4th floor. It's a room with a giant robot head. Talk to her, and she just needs the last 4 digits of the credit card to use to park it. First floor. It's on the ground floor. In the Voltron room. You can do it on your way out too, but just do that before you leave the premises. And I just forced everyone out of the room. How about that? Yeah, that's game time for you.
See, I usually do that before all the
I don't want people having to pay $30 to get out of here. It's true.
I mean, it's very good. That's why.
Yeah, no,
You can do it before 9:15. And we're not going to be spending a lot more time, but we did want to have some time for anyone that has any questions for Richard. He'll be here for a little bit longer. I can come over with the microphone.
Any questions?
Any
You want us
questions?
to queue?
Just yell them out.
Yeah, I'll walk over here. Everybody's just answer.
So, fairly random, right? You know, it feels like the pachinko balls could have gone other ways on every single step of that, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, kind of going back to the people thing, like, you know, I guess specifically like Andy Messner, who ended up, you know, kind of more or less giving me my big break, my job. When I met him in 2016, I had no idea. You know, I worked with him on this silly little indie thing that we had no idea we thought was going to be successful. We had a lot of like optimism for it, and ended up just kind of falling flat. So I thought I'd never talk to him again after that. We became friends on Facebook, and then like you do with a lot of people, you just not really talk to them, or they don't really talk to you. You let them get on with their lives until they made that post. So yeah, the pachinko ball. I mean, seriously, that could have gone anywhere. If we had finished Pro Janitor Police, which we had put a lot of time into, and taken that to more shows or got publishing for it, I mean, that could have taken me down a completely different path. I would have been like, oh yeah, this game's successful. Maybe I should make more games instead of more movies, you know? It really could have gone anyway. So yeah, I do think about that a lot. That's a good
Well, I mean, I think the takeaway from your story is just continuing to go up to bat and swing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, you know, it's like anything that failed, I wasn't going to stop doing what I was doing, because I even had that talk with like my mom several times. You know, it's like, if this doesn't work out, I'm just going to go find a real job and do that, whatever. Because that's what my dad wanted me to do. You know, he was really loathing that I wanted to work in computers and games. He's like, you could work on computers in the military. I'm like, it's not the same thing. Even though, you know, there are games like America's Army and stuff like that. But, you know, beside the point. I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew I wasn't going to stop until you know, I managed to fulfill that. And that's just kind of what it was.
I actually have a follow-up. I'll give Richie there, but what you just said, I knew what I wanted to do. You were wanting to do film and games, which right now you have a job where they actually marries the two.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should regret anything that you've done thus far, even though you've said, like you said, things could have gone differently. But have you ever thought about what it would have been like if you focused on one thing and not the other?
Yeah, and I can't come up with anything conclusive, because I don't know if I would have been successful with those projects either. In the way of like finances or something, because you know, whether you like it or not, we still have to make money to live. We still have to, you know, eat and take care of our family and stuff like that if we have one. You know, but it was really just, I knew what I wanted to do, and by that I mean I knew I wanted to create. I knew I wanted to make movies or music or video games or something. I was going to find any way I could do that, no matter what.
Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate the story of perseverance and success. It's totally awesome. And I know you said not to try to predict the future, so I'll ask you kind of a different spin on it. Like, what types of things haven't you achieved yet that you want to achieve in the years coming?
I want to make a full-fledged screenplay. So when I said I just came here from a movie set, I got hired back in December. I just moved to Austin. I got hired back in December as just a contractor. I had my own equipment, stuff like that. And so I reached out on Twitter to a guy named Josh Rubin. He started College Humor. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that. But he was producing a vampire movie here in Austin, or shooting out in Taylor, Texas, or whatever. And he put out a call for like, hey, anybody wants to help on the project, like PAs or anything like that, just come, you know, like hit me up. So I hit him up, and he put me in touch with their production company and stuff like that. But then I told the production company, I was like, oh, by the way, I have my own equipment, like I have my own 6K camera and stuff like that, because I was already experimenting with movie stuff back home. And so they're like, oh, so do you want to shoot behind the scenes instead? I was like, sure, you know, like anything to get my foot in the door. And I'm thinking the same thing I was when I started my game career. I'll talk to anybody. I'll kind of just do anything that gets my foot in the door of this industry and kind of gets me one step further. So I did some behind the scenes with them, and I put together a making of edit, because editing is still my bread and butter in a lot of ways. But the producer who liked the film, or who was producing the film, liked my stuff so much that he just invited me back for his next film, which he's shooting out in Westlake. They just started this week. So I immediately see this as a success. Like, this is like, it's still a very small project. It's an indie project. Indie in the terms of like movies, it's $100,000 plus production. That's still very indie, but it's still a success for me because I get to be on set. I get to see how the thing is made. I get to watch other people doing their jobs really well. See everybody coordinating to make this really cool project. Ultimately, I want that to lead me to making my own movie, being a writer-director type of thing. And, you know, who knows if I'll get there, but I'm really having my blast right now just doing that, and that's kind of what I'm focusing on. So, the silver lining and, you know, seeing maybe a light at the end of the tunnel, I'm always going to be optimistic about it. But right now, I'm just having fun.
Yeah. You had your hand up. You want to
Yeah, mine's more of a just a silly question. I'm just kind of curious. What did you
swiping around my phone?
You're a big Mortal Kombat fan. How do you think the newest film compared to the original?
Good question.
I know it's very divisive for a lot of people. I liked it in a different way than I liked the first one. The guy who played Kane was just incredible.
That guy was
hilarious.
awesome. That was an Australian production, and they had to make the best one in Australia.
Yeah. And the original Kano passed away in like 2003, I think. So, you know, it was he was a great Kano too. You could tell they were working with a smaller budget because the set pieces were a lot more bare, and it was like, to me, in the same way that Dark Knight made Gotham City basically just New York, as compared to like the old Keaton movies and stuff like that, where it was just like these huge statues towering over everything, stuff like that. It very much felt like it had its own identity, and I think the same thing about the original Mortal Kombat. It had those same kind of things. It had very much had its own identity, very contrasty lighting, and just, you know, a lot of cool stuff going on. So, but the kind of argument I make for the new movie is that it's for a different audience than us, and it's kind of for us, but it's also kind of for people who played Mortal Kombat 10, 9, 10, 11. It's its own thing, and I respect that. I enjoyed it for what it was. I think they could have done a lot more with it, and I'm hoping they do with the sequel. Still don't know who's going to play Johnny Cage. We shall see. But you know, I have high hopes for the sequel, and I think this one also it kind of works more as like a prequel, the original movie, because they're setting up the tournament. You know, they aren't actually having it just yet. So I'm interested to see where the next one goes, and you know, hopefully it'll be pretty good.
Earlier you were talking about earlier in your career you were doing some dev diary stuff, and I was curious if there was anything that you documented that seemed to be gaining more traction than other things.
Yeah, I like started the YouTube channel to put all that stuff up just to and just to document it. But I was also doing a couple other things with that YouTube channel. I was teaching ZBrush. I was putting up like ZBrush tutorials because I taught myself ZBrush and figured I could pay forward that knowledge. So a lot of people were coming to the channel for that stuff and then seeing my other stuff by way of that. And they were making comments on stuff like that, which really got me more interested in making that a more comprehensive story. But it was very much like Indie Game the movie that wanted me to, or that inspired me to do more of that stuff in a more storyline comprehensive way. So I couldn't really say particularly if any of those videos like hit the mark or something like that, but I was doing the YouTube thing a little bit in ways too, where I was like, here's how you get into the game industry and stuff like that, like fish hook kind of headlines and stuff that would get people to click on the video, and that would kind of get people in. So I would say stuff like that, kind of, you know, that was more searchable, that was easier to find than, you know, just like, here's me making my game, like nobody cares. For the most part anyway. But yeah, we really pushed, it was prohibited release, we really pushed everything we were working on with that, and so we would put on animated bits and stuff, and that would get a lot of traction, and just instant that stuff with it. So.
Any other questions for Richard? You tell me if you're running low on time.
No, I'm good.
Alright, I've got a short one and then an actual question. Who do you main in Mortal Kombat?
It's coming back there. First and foremost, I suck at Mortal Kombat. It was one of those games where I loved playing it, even though I was either getting my ass whipped by the AI or just by somebody else, and people were very competitive about it. But you know, there's also a reason why the original games aren't like any evil or anything, because they're kind of broken. No, my favorite character though, so I'll just kind of like spin it to this. My favorite character is always going to be Sub-Zero.
Yes.
My actual question is, how do you deal with the moments where you are in the middle of your worst case scenario? I'm sure that must have happened several times over 18 years.
Yeah, actually pretty recently, I can probably talk about one. When I got the job at Kabam, this might get a little dark, but when I got the job at Kabam, they gave me a really great salary offer. They gave me like a bonus and all that stuff to come on. So I was like on cloud nine, thinking like everything's going to be okay, everything's great. But I still lived in Wichita, and Wichita is like one of the cheapest places in the entire U.S. to live in. I had a downtown 2-floor loft apartment for $1,300 a month. Like, I'm not even joking. Yeah.
But you have to live in Wichita.
Yeah, in Wichita.
Yeah, it's in Wichita.
Yeah,
live there.
Yeah, that's where I was when I. Yeah. So obviously when I moved here, I realized that things are a lot more expensive, and also not really being great at managing my finances before. I had a lot of extra bills when I came here, and so all that stuff, to be honest with you, even in this very moment, is still piling on top of me. And I finally found the loophole to kind of get out here in July and kind of start managing that stuff a little better. But when I first got here and I realized how in over my head I was, I just sat there like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna go throw myself off my 11th floor balcony, because I was just like in that dark of a place. I was like, there's no way in hell I'm getting out of it this time. Like, you finally did it to yourself. This is it. You're not getting out of it this time. That was probably the lowest point I'd been at in a long, long time, realizing that, and then just trying to find a path forward and trying to look forward to things. But yeah, there's no other way to put it. You just power through. And you know, I forget who said it, but if you're going through hell, keep going. You know, that's like, you know, kind of what my mantra was on that. I just, you know, you try to wake up every day and think everything's going to be great, but even if it's not, you just go through it anyway, let it happen, go through the motions, and just try to find a way out someday later.
I just want to say that's incredibly validating to me because I'm absolutely not an optimist anyway. Just to tell that. So I mean, perseverance, comes from myself, that's Richie's word, but yeah, just being able to stick through it. You didn't know if it would work out, like you said just then, but it also mattered that you had made a good network and people knew who you were, people like you, so you can come back to that, even when it's easy to forget. Well, because in dark spaces you don't remember all your friends, but you still had some.
I mean, every once in a while you look back and you think about, I mean, I'm very hard on myself too, like if I maybe said something wrong to somebody sometime, anybody you're ever falling out with or something like that, sometimes you just kind of have to be good at moving on and also realize that there's like going to be other people who treat you the way you deserve to be treated, and those people out there, you just keep going on, and hopefully you're going to meet those people, and hopefully you're going to be able to help each other out.
More questions for Richard?
You had said at some point that you were always present and people just knew you.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Like, where do you to just be seen, or is there a place you can volunteer?
I mean, really, the answer is just showing up. You know, just being in places like this, being at shows. You know, going up at a booth at a show like PAX or something and talking to the developer, asking them how they make their game, and, you know, just stuff like that, keeping a rapport with people. I did it in a little more specific way. I started doing talks, like just every event I could get my hands on a pitch for a talk or something like that. PAX was that event, PAX South 2015, I had my first panel. And I just shot for the moon. I reached out to guys like Adam Sessler and just all these other people like who had been really well known at the time, saying, "You guys want to talk about art and video games? Let's, you know, this is what my movie's about. So let's just go talk about this, and it's going to be cool." And you know, to my surprise, you know, they said yes. Sometimes that's just part of the process. Is just reaching out. Some people are so afraid to do just that, and you really just, you know, just do it, and you'd be surprised at the results sometimes. So. Yeah, that really became my channel for getting to know a lot of people. Is I would pitch a talk for every PAX West. It's called PAX West, PAX Prime. But yeah, PAX West, PAX East, PAX South, GDC, South by Southwest. Like I would pitch a talk for everything, and some of them I didn't get, some of them I did, and I would just find any means necessary to get out there and either show my game or talk or anything like that. And you get to know people just organically that way. Go to the hotel lobbies after the show, the floor closes. Trust me, that's where all the action is at. That's where the relax goes at. And just talk to people. You get to know people. You'd be surprised, it just spreads. It's great.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Again, extremely validating because people that hear me talk, these are all the things I tell people to do. And treat it like practice. Because you're not as good as you were 10 years ago. You're ideally better.
I still have very many social anxieties.
Yeah. I mean, no one is as good as they would like to be, but no one got good at anything without practice, so get good.
I think you hit something important. Like, you know, when you need a bigger network, going to speak is one of the best ways to get one. And going to a panel where you're not carrying the whole thing is a lot less intimidating. So.
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time letting other people talk over it just so I could be there and, you know, get the energy from it.
Well, try to say at least one or two intelligent things, and then people will talk after. Or outrageous. You don't have to actually know anything. You just do something outrageous.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've definitely been on panels, and I actually just really actively tried to get people on panels who were way smarter than me and everything that the panel was about, just because I wanted to hear their take on it. I was very much an audience member on a lot of those panels because I was sitting there wanting to hear their take on it, how they did things. That was important to me too. That was part of the process. But it was nice being up there with them and getting to associate with them and be part of that.
Well, we'll take one more question because we need to tear everything down and get out of here. And actually, if anyone wants to help us restack the chairs and move the furniture back to where it was, we would appreciate it. Don't need everyone Anyone else have a
Don't
question?
jump at it at all.
We pay in.
Yes.
So, oh wow. Right. So, having done both like the video, like the movie, film, and then also games, were there some crossovers that were like surprised you? Like, oh, this is very similar to this.
Crossover is like as far
Like,
as
I guess from like a artistic perspective or like a production perspective.
I mean, I don't know, not really for me, I guess. They both have their own sets of nuances that you kind of need to master. I wasn't good at editing video when I started or anything like that either, because it's completely different than anything I'd tried before. In the same way, though, I guess, I don't know, probably the most similar thread I can come upon with that is that it's, you watch other people do it and you kind of see what they do and you take little pieces of that and then you try to see if you can put your own spin on it and see if you can develop your own style, your own understanding of it, and then that kind of develops into your own unique thing. And then I found very similar approaching either designing games or editing video. It was kind of the same process. I just watched other people do it and I took inspiration from that and then just applied my own style to it. And I mean, to be honest too, like there's a certain point where I realized I was good at it and good enough to like continue sharpening the skills. That's part of it. I mean, kind of discovering that, I don't want to say the it factor or anything, but realizing you have a knack for it, because I can safely tell you that I'm never going to be a good coder. Like, I've tried coding and I just absolutely suck at it. So it's not something I feel like I'm ever going to explore appropriately enough to get good at, because not only does my passion for it not exist because I just don't understand it, it's just noodle, you know, in my head, and you know, stuff like that. But some people can just look at that and just, you know, understand it right away, even if they don't really have the sharpening of the skills just yet. You just kind of know. So that kind of gets away from your original question, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just a matter of taking in things and then putting your own spin on it. And I think I discovered both of those things in the same way.
All right, Richard James Cook, give one more hand. Thanks again for everyone to come out tonight. We'll have another show in 2 months. Everyone pay attention to the COVID vectors and hope it stays on the floor where we're at right now. I'll be the speaker in June. I've got my topic out there called The End of Place, which is not as ominous as we need it to do. But if anyone wants to hang around, we have chairs to stack. But otherwise, everyone be safe and stay in touch this Easter weekend.